Next up, to present the IEN Leadership Awards, Georgia Dyer, Executive Director and co-founder of Intentional Endowments Network.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're enjoying your lunch, and please continue to do so. We're very excited for our next keynote speaker coming up in just a few minutes, Dr. Lomax from UNCF. And before our board chair, Diane Dillon Ridgely, introduces him, we just have a very brief announcement that we're excited to share. And I'm joined up here on stage by Paris Prince, our Director of Partnerships and Strategic Initiatives, Dorian Nunez, our co-chair of our JEDI initiative at IEN, Diane Dillon Ridgely, who is making her way to the stage, our board chair at IEN, and the winner of last year's Leadership Award, Felicia Davis from the HBCU Green Fund. So IEN is a network, and networks don't work without the engagement, time, and expertise of their members. So each year, we have started delivering and offering the IEN Leadership Awards to recognize individuals that have made unique and outstanding contributions to IEN and its mission. This year we have 3 categories. We're going to have a Leadership Award in JEDI, one in climate, and one in sustainable investing generally. 2 of the 3 recipients were not able to make it in person, but we are very thrilled to announce and share with you. The winner of our JEDI Award is Bhakti Murkandani. Bhakti is the Managing Director of Responsible Investing at Trinity Church Wall Street, and she's also the co-founder and steering committee member of IADIA, which is the Institutional Allocators for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Group. It's an amazing affinity group of over 200 chief investment officers of endowments and foundations around the country, and in establishing that, Bhakti is just great. A huge act of leadership in and of itself, but also very open to collaborating and partnering with networks like IEN, and it's been a great partnership with her. So very pleased to honor her leadership in this space. Second, our Climate Award winner is Robert Litterman. Bob is the founding partner of Kepos Capital. He's the former head of risk at Goldman Sachs. He's a PhD economist and developer of the Black Litterman model. He was our first keynote at our first IEN event. He was our seed funder to get the initiative going. He was a longtime board member. He is very active on all kinds of climate leadership initiatives as a donor, board member, and advocate, and a real just champion of climate action. So very pleased to award our Climate Award this year to Bob Litterman. And finally, for our General Sustainable Investing Award, very thrilled to announce Pedro Enriquez de Silva as the winner. Pedro is the director of Shifting Trillions Initiative at the Sierra Club Foundation. He has dedicated his time, expertise, and experience to many of IEN's initiatives, most notably our Net Zero Endowments Initiative, where he led the development of our Leading with Justice publication, which is a report and a tool, a guidance document on how to center justice when thinking about net zero portfolios. So Pedro, thank you so much for your leadership and everything you've done for IEN. We're pleased to offer you this award. Come on up. Let you know I'm proud. Congrats again, Pedro. Thank you all so much. And it is now my great pleasure to hand the mic to IEN's board chair, Diane Dillon Ridgely. Diane.
Well, good afternoon. All right. No. Let's try this again. Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon. We are here. It is not snowing here. They might want some snow, but in Boston, where I'm going, they're struggling. but they'll get over it. But I only have a few minutes, not nearly enough time that it deserves to give to what I'm to do, which is to introduce Dr. Michael Lomax. I want you to know, somebody's going to talk about the report they just released about 48 hours ago. It is truly something. It is not a report to just know that it exists. You need to read this. You need to understand. And I'm going to give a little personal story of my connection with the United Negro College Fund. My first introduction to UNCF was when I was 5 years old. I was growing up in Dallas, Texas, and the homestead of my grandparents. My grandfather was Dr. Granville James Harding, his wife Rebecca. She was the chair of virtually every club that there was, the National Council of Negro Women, the YWCA board of the colored branch. I'm making a point of this. This was the middle of the 1950s. And so when an amazing, wonderful fundraiser, this giant of a man in my eyes named Samuel Etheridge, who was a fundraiser who would come every year on his circuit with HBCUs to raise money for the United Negro College Fund in the 1950s. Now, why did he sit at our house in the 1950s in Dallas, Texas? Come on. Because he couldn't stay in any hotels. And that's the point I want to make. I don't know if people appreciate the phenomena, the audacity, the amazing work that the entire sense of historically Black colleges and also Hispanic serving institutions and other institutions which were created because we now use a lot of term about, the transfer of generational wealth. We understood that education was the currency in which we were able to invest so that Thurgood Marshall could represent my uncle when they filed against the University of Oklahoma, or another uncle of mine, that was Moselle Dillon, or another uncle of mine, Gregory Swanson, integrated the University of Virginia in 1950. Thurgood Marshall was there. And when Thurgood Marshall would come to Dallas, he would either stay at Fanny's husband's house, which is what it was, because she made the best sweet potato pies in the world. But now, today, I go by, and the federal building is named after him, Maceo Smith. So I know, when you read stuff in the books, and we're in the middle of Black History Month, and it seems that it's all this remote. This is truly immediate. I'm old, but I'm not that old. So consequently, I want you to understand. Well, now I appreciate whoever tried to applaud for that. But the point I'm trying to make is many of us who were the children then, I remember the afternoon when the four girls, Carol Robertson, one of the four girls who died in the bombing of the Birmingham church, which was only 5 weeks after the March on Washington. Somebody needs to help you put all this in context and see how immediate and how recent it is. And I would say also how fragile it is. And one of the things you need to remember, this coming year, not only are we having an election, but 55% of the people on the planet in countries are going to have an election. Democracy is on the line. I'm not going to preach because I'm not the one who's supposed to be speaker. But I also want to say something about Dr. Lomax. We were just sitting there going over how many overlaps there were between our families. He went to Morehouse. My son went to Morehouse. Actually, his first wife was my campus pal at here, and I see Bell over there. I don't know if he remembers when we had a little discussion at the Quixote Foundation in Seattle, and I sent him birthday greetings every year, including this past, and put a little picture and thing about it. And he's good too, by the way. So you'll enjoy this next session. But Lomax, in the 20 years that he has been at the helm at the United Negro College Fund, has helped the country understand the measure and the way in which, I don't really enjoy saying outperformed, these institutions have outperformed, but with impossibly insufficient resources, have produced the highest percentages of people who have contributed in this country. Now, he's going to tell you all that, so I don't have to tell you all that. But it is so important that we understand these institutions. We understand that the work we're doing and what we're doing, particularly in terms of climate and the environment. I happen to chair CL, the Center for International Environmental Laws Board as well. We, in each generation, in each iteration, we stand on the cusp of the times where we must stand up and we must be leaders. I don't like soldiers, but we're the ones who make the difference. We see before it happens, and Tony Cortese, who was the founder of both Second Nature and IEN with George, we see the institutions that need to be built, that need to happen. So you are here, you have tasks, you have tremendous responsibility, but you also have agency. So with that agency and coming here and working now and then going back to various homes and institutions, do not lose that. If you need some help or you get a little tired, call me, call somebody else. Get shored up. But I want you to keep at it because it is a fight and it is worthy of that. Now, I want you to, as you can, because you saw me, I came up with a crutch, but I want you to stand and welcome with me because he deserves it. I want you all to stand and give a rousing welcome to Michael Lomax for the 20 years that he has been at UNCF.
I've been feeling it since 1966. Might have had your fill, I feel it still. Ooh, all the rebels just for kicks now. Let me kick it like it's 1986 now. Might be over.
Now, I'm going to take Diane with me everywhere I go. Diane, thank you so much. It's been a minute since we've seen one another. It's not often I get introduced with respect to my first wife. But I'm a serial monogamist, so it just depends on where I'm getting introduced, okay? But my first wife and I had one daughter, and now we have 5 grandchildren, one of whom is a sophomore at Howard University. And we're just hoping we're finally going to get a Howard degree because Pearl did not graduate from Howard. She finished Spelman. Is anybody in the house from Spelman? Come on now, let's hear it for Spelman. All right, so enough of my personal business. I want to give a shout out before I give my brief talk, and then you really came here to see Kamal Bell, and he's going to come out here and be provocative at my expense. But I really want to just say a word about the important report which UNCF has issued today. I first of all want to introduce the author of the report, Dr. Kendra M. Sharp, PhD. Kendra, give her a hand. She is a strategist and an author of HBCU Climate Action Blueprint, Sustainable Campuses, Empowered Communities. It's a very, very full report. It's not dense, it's got a lot in it. It's well written, easy to follow. She was trying to remember all the examples that she's going to talk about when she does her program in a few minutes after this. And I've been dealing with HBCUs for 60 years. And I'm learning stuff reading that report that I did not know. And what I did not know was the passion and the intensity with which our institutions are actually doing this work now. And what I really didn't know, but I'm inspired by their call to action about what we can do in our communities and at our HBCUs. I also want to acknowledge Ed Smith-Lewis, who leads the Institute for Capacity Building. Ed, stand up, just wave. And Julian Thompson. Julian, what is Julian's last name? Thomas. Yeah, sorry about that, Julian. And Morehouse people can't remember Morehouse names. Julian, who is also a part of that team, and who has been very actively involved in the work that we've been doing in preparation of this important report. And I want to give a special shout out to Alexandra McBride of Waverly Foundation, who has just been such an important force in enabling us to do this work. I also left out Amanda Lockett, Washington Lockett, who is one of the team members who is also working on this and will be presenting in a little bit. And then I got to just give a shout out to Felicia Davis, founder and CEO of HBCU Green Fund, because before all of us were doing this at UNCF, Felicia was really championing this cause and raising awareness and engaging us, and actually doing some of that at the Institute for Capacity Building at the United Negro College Fund. So today is a big day for our team. They'll share the report that is the culmination of years of research, analysis, deliberation, synthesis, and a whole lot of hard work. They have focused on a subject that is not often associated with UNCF, climate, but will be with the release of this report, and I saw that it's already out there in the world on social media, getting written up about. And like a lot of the work that we've been doing, I think it's really going to help set the terms of engagement with the HBCU community and climate. So thanks to all who have made this possible. I don't need to tell this audience why this is such an important report. You already know that. But I will share with you, and I'm a former teacher of English, okay? And I do this work, and I'm basically a fundraiser, okay? That's my job. But this is a really important report because it connects things that we do know about and talk about a lot with respect to the Black community. It connects educational inequality and inequity with economic outcomes, where there is more inequity and inequality. With health, where there is more inequity and inequality. And then with the climate. All of those are issues that maybe seem like they're our issues in the Black community, but climate is a global issue. And all of us have a responsibility, but we are even more harshly impacted by this climate crisis in our community because of race and poverty than so many others are. And so this must be an issue that we will embrace and champion and partner along with all of you in this hall this afternoon. For the last 27 years, I have been immersed in HBCUs. Their roles, their strategies, their strengths, their crises, and their challenges. Prior to that, I had believed that I could make a difference, a contribution through political engagement. I worked for Atlanta's first Black mayor, Maynard Jackson, from his 1973 campaign through the end of his first term. In 1978, I ran for the Fulton County Board of Commissioners, and I won, and I served until 1993 when I ran for mayor. He's not been mayor of Atlanta. No, I haven't. That was unsuccessful, and it ended my political career. My plan was to take everything I had learned in politics, except in that last campaign and apply it to my passion, historically black colleges and universities. First, as president of Dillard University in New Orleans, Louisiana, from 1997. It took me a couple of years to get a presidency until 2004. And I had been teaching for a decade. I taught for a decade at Morehouse and Spelman colleges. Then as president of UNCF beginning in 2004, and this is in July will be my 20th year at UNCF. Nobody takes and keeps jobs that long. But I keep doing it for a couple more years because there's still work to do, and I want to talk a little bit about that work. My 7 years at Dillard had been a period of deep learning for me. As I said, I had taught at Morehouse and Spelman. And being on the faculty and leading a historically black institution are pretty different enterprises. And Dillard, I learned about the challenges that our institutions face, but I also could envision all of the opportunities and all of the impacts that those institutions can have when we address those challenges. So in 1997, the chance to lead UNCF offered me an opportunity to have deeper and more scaled impact for 37 private historically black colleges and the larger HBCU community. And there are, give or take, over 100 historically black colleges and universities with 250,000 students. And just think about the geography that they encompass, from Florida in the southeast all the way up to Virginia and over to Washington, D.C., and then over to Philadelphia, across to Ohio, and then down into the deep south, all the way to the southwest, to Texas. Huge geography. When I started at UNCF, so I saw this as a lot of opportunity, but when I started at UNCF, my biggest surprise was the question I was always asked by journalists, philanthropists, and humanists, and business leaders: do we still need historically black colleges and universities? That question was not malicious. It was offensive, but I don't think it was malicious. But it was clear that America writ large thought, if they thought at all about HBCUs, they thought they were relics of the past, anachronisms of an earlier time. America had moved on to K-12 education, to charter schools, to social entrepreneurs who would get education of black young people right and send them off to the schools that they had attended, most often PWIs, predominantly white institutions. I too thought K-12 needed a lot of work to produce more college-ready high school graduates who would then go on to historically black colleges and universities, which I thought were important. And as a result, because 70% of our students come from the lowest socioeconomic strata of our nation, would move into the middle class, would be a pipeline of economic and social opportunity, not just for themselves, but their families and their communities. But it was clear that HBCUs needed a new narrative that valued the role they played and continue to play and must play in the black community. So UNCF focused on data, analysis, revitalizing our Frederick D. Patterson Research Institute, and I think they're listed on this report as, partners of this work. Although it's not specifically done by Patterson this time. And at Patterson told a new and important story about the educational impact that that HBCUs have, about the economic mobility that they provide for their students, and the impact they have on the communities in which they live. And we will issue one of those other big reports in May, a third economic impact study, which will tell community by community, institution by institution, just how much financial impact in the tens of billions of dollars that these institutions have. And if you know anything about Black communities, you know that these are anchor institutions and probably have the greatest impact of any institutions in their community other than the Black church. We strengthened our scholarship programs and made them more than just financial transactions with students. We built wraparound services to ensure that the students who got those scholarships, no matter how big or small they were, that they were stuck to those schools, that they persisted and they graduated. And instead of giving hundreds or thousands of scholarships, we now give 10, 12, 13,000 scholarships a year, and we are increasing it. I think it was $60 million in scholarships last year alone. We created the Institute for Capacity Building, which the team that is issuing this report leads today, to strategically support historically Black colleges and universities to make them stronger, more effective educational institutions with a team of experts and a practice on how you work with institutions that you want to change and improve and make stronger, how you embed those practices in that institutions. The Institute for Capacity Building is our innovation center at UNCF for higher education. We built a strong government affairs operation to ensure that Washington invested in HBCUs more robustly, and I'll come back to that. We built a strong and effective fundraising operation to raise more support and channel it effectively to our historically Black colleges and universities and to young people who wanted to go to college. Let me give you a tale of two crises, very briefly. In 2005, you know what happened, Katrina, right? A year after I had left Dillard. Timing, I don't know. I think it was good to leave, but it certainly was a terrible event for that great city. But we took that cause up at UNCF. We enlisted two former presidents, Bill Clinton and George Herbert Walker Bush, and we, with them, raised millions of dollars to support Dillard and Xavier and Tougaloo and the institutions that were most adversely impacted and Southern University at New Orleans, the institutions that were most adversely impacted by the storm. We played a role and we made a difference, but it wasn't the same role that we played in 2020. We were on defense in 2005. In 2020, the moment we heard that there would be a pandemic, we got our public policy and government affairs grouped together. We met, Nancy Pelosi was our speaker at a March dinner. That was the last in-person event that we did. And we sent our team to the Capitol. And over the next 3 years of funding going to support higher education and ensure that students could continue their educations, UNCF raised over $6 billion in federal funding, direct resources to our institutions, and amazingly, eliminated $1.6 billion in capital debt that HBCUs had. And so that at the end, yeah, give me a hand, give us a hand, because we did a lot of arm twisting. But at the end of COVID in 2024, or thereabouts, 2023, by the time we're coming back out of that, HBCUs are stronger financially than they've ever been. That's such an unexpected outcome. UNCF worried that that crisis could be a death knell for some of our institutions. We thought it would be a real kick in the gut for UNCF. And we worried that we wouldn't even be able to raise the $80 million that we planned to raise that year. We tightened our belts and we thought, well, maybe if we could just raise 40. Well, we didn't even raise 40. We raised $253 million that year from 200,000 donors. And in the 4 years from 2020 to 2024, UNCF has raised over $1 billion, and we ain't through yet. So the HBCU community is no longer on defense. People are not asking us, do we still need HBCUs? But make no mistake, our HBCUs and our communities are determined to do more, including this climate work that we are announcing today. We are organizing to be more impactful as we face the challenges of climate and other existential challenges facing our community. To that end, we know that HBCUs need more resources. And I've talked longer than I intended to, but I want to just say a little bit about the capital campaign that we have in front of us. UNCF had been planning a capital campaign for about 5 years. We put it on hold when the pandemic struck. But we decided maybe we can, just go around and continue to talk about it a little bit and raise a little bit of money. In 2020, we raised $80 million from donors for our HBCUs. The goal of this campaign is $1 billion. Today, we have raised $550 million of those dollars. And last month, the Lilly Endowment in Indianapolis, Indiana, gave UNCF a $100 million unrestricted gift to that campaign. That $100 million will be the seed for a $370 million pooled endowment, a subject which a lot of the experts that have been talking here about endowments have raised with us. HBCUs have endowments totaling just over $4 billion, all 100 of them, Kamal. Harvard University has a $50 billion endowment. There are HBCUs in the UNCF network that have endowments of less than $1 billion. But because of the Lilly gift, we have now raised 27% of our goal, which is a pooled endowment where each of our 37 institutions has a $10 million stake. So that that institution in South Carolina with an endowment of $300,000 now has a $3 million endowment. And our institutions will receive their first dividend in March of next year. And every year going forward in perpetuity. It's so often said that HBCUs do more with less. Our intent is to do more with more. And as we talk about issues of such extraordinary significance as climate, as poverty, as educational inequity, we know that we need institutions that are not just stable, but thriving financially to be able to do the work that they must do. You all are doing the climate work. Many of our other partners are doing with us other important work. But I want to underscore that the Black community will always be at the bottom of the bad stats as long as we are the poorest community, as long as we have the least financial assets in our communities. We often think about that with respect to individuals, families, and communities. We don't think about it enough with respect to institutions. We can't do this work unless our institutions have the financial wherewithal to invest in the resources that they require to do that work. Yes, grants and gifts are important, but having the stability and financial wherewithal as an institution to make their own choices really will ensure that they are doing the work that they believe they should do and not the work that a funder thinks they should do. So, I'm through talking.